Back on the show, and as we wrap things up from Columbia, Missouri for the weekend as far as Hog Hoops are concerned, you look at the fact that this is an Arkansas basketball team that was in a scrap and claw situation yet again. Second overtime game in a week, and Mizzou just seemed like it had the edge all day.
Yeah, Arkansas came out sloppy and sluggish, I thought. The turnovers early. Also, I didn't think Arkansas's defensive intensity was there. I thought Missouri did a good job of exposing that, and then Arkansas it's an uphill climb, and this isn't the best Missouri team. They struggle offensively. The last thing you want to do is put them at the foul line, and I think Arkansas was a little flat-footed today, and they paid for that. And Missouri got to the foul line, and especially in that first half, really hurt Arkansas. But the Razorbacks now, this is a tailspin. They've lost 5 of 7. This was a Missouri team that had injury problems as well. Yeah. So the excuses on, maybe we played a better team that was at full speed, I don't think that was the case. Yeah. But you are on the road.
That's a good segue because they didn't have Jeremiah Tillman. Missouri didn't, and they also didn't have Mark Smith. So 2 really good players from Mizzou out. Obviously, Arkansas is out indefinitely with Isaiah Joe, the star guard, the sophomore. So that changes the way this team has to play. This team's identity has certainly changed. Now you're playing with 2 bigs, but let's start on the glass, Kevin, as far as my next point. 36-24 edge in defensive rebounding, and Muss talked about that.
Yeah, and they were minus 17 overall on the glass. And, this is not something that surprises you as an Arkansas fan, regardless of who's available to you. That's been the struggle. Arkansas's had to make up for that by being a really good team in turnover margin, and they have been most of the year. But every once in a while, and we see it every 2 or 3 games, they ended up +3 in turnovers, but for most of that game, they were behind. And when you're getting beat on the glass like that, you've got to compensate for it somewhere, especially on the road. Missouri's a good defensive team, but I thought Arkansas's struggles on turning the ball over were mostly unforced. I thought they were just they were not sharp.
Yeah, you mentioned the 10 first-half turnovers for the Arkansas Razorbacks in this game. Reggie Chaney, strong effort. I mean, there were some situations where he made some mistakes that a sophomore can make. Certainly in his case, when you look at it, he still needs to fully develop his game. But you look at what he did, a double-double against Mizzou.
Yeah, and that's his first time in his career. He also had a career high 17 points, a couple of blocks, a couple of steals. And, I think, Musselman talked about in the press conference after the game that with he and Bailey playing a bigger lineup, if you want to call that a big lineup, for Arkansas it is, they're going to have to do a better job on the glass. But I thought Chaney did his part. I thought his effort and energy definitely was a boost because a lot of guys didn't seem to have it.
I mentioned the identity of this team, and you look at the way they have to play now because when you start Reggie Chaney and Adrio Bailey and you look at offensive weapons, let's jump ahead to the end of the game because with about a minute and a half to go in this game, Mizzou's up 7. You're like, where's the offense really going to come from? Jimmy Witt had 15 points. He also had 15 points as a freshman here on this floor at Mizzou Arena. But where is it collectively going to come from? And they still were only down 2 with about 30 seconds left. Why? Because Desi Sills hit one of his 2 threes in this game.
Yeah, and Desi Sills also had a tough drive late in the game, missed the free throw. Had he made that free throw, Arkansas's got a 1-point lead. I thought the final possession defensively for Arkansas in regulation was really, really good. Missouri had a lot of success going to the basket in this game, either getting fouled or finishing or getting a putback. And I thought that final possession is what you got to have at least to get to overtime. But if Sills makes the free throw, maybe Arkansas wins that game.
All right, as we close, they got to find out more and more who they are. You look at it, Arkansas is 16-7 on the season, 4-6 in the SEC. But you look at the three-point range, and the fact that Arkansas only had 3 threes in this game, 2 coming from Sills, 1 coming from Adrio Bailey. Issue: Mason Jones, none.
Yeah, I mean, Mason Jones had been, 34, 30, and 40 in his last 3 games, 17-point game, and it wasn't his best outing. That's going to happen sometimes, and you got to have support around it. We know Isaiah Joe's a big part of what this team did when it had success, and I think Arkansas getting back on the road on a short turnaround Tuesday at Tennessee has got a lot more questions to answer now based on this 5 out of 7 games losing. I think back on the road, it doesn't get any easier.
All right, one more point here, all right, as we close. 30 seconds on this. The fact that on Saturday, I mentioned that Mizzou in this game, getting the win over Arkansas, now makes it 3 losses by a combined 9 points. The last 3 losses by a combined 9 points for the Razorbacks. This team is going to have to find a way because it's undersized, but you just look at that and you're like, wow, this is the scenario. Maybe it will help them down the stretch. I don't know if they'll wear down too much. Muss said right now he doesn't think they are worn out mentally and physically.
When Arkansas started 14-2, before this, you could call it a skid, they won a lot of close games with the little details and just being a little bit better than the other team. It's kind of flipped on them now. Now you've got to find answers. And again, you go back on the road right away, just to 48 hours, 72 hours, and they've been good on the road this year, 4-4 now. But if they can find a way to scratch and claw against a Tennessee team that's a little bit down, I think Arkansas, if you get a win, that fixes a lot. And you come back home for Mississippi State next weekend.
Arkansas set for Rocky Top next. It'll be a trip to Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. More of the Pig Trail after this.